Hello, this is Chris Kimothy and welcome again to the Visual Effects Compositing course. We have our sparks in place, but we need something to cover up this moment where we transition from that grill to this grill. To do that, we'll put in a flash of light. This also helps to build the effect of the sparks giving off a glow as though things are getting smokier up there. So it's a dual purpose effect. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a bit of housekeeping. We have our sparks layers down here. Just going to drag them together, shift click them, and then drag them to the very bottom of the composition here where they're out of the way. We could delete them, but we might need them later if we want to redo these sparks, so I'll leave them in for now. So I'll go layer, new, solid. We'll call this flash. And at about the 1.5 second mark, I'm going to split that layer and delete the first part. The idea here is that we need to see the sparks for a little while, but not too long, before this cloud appears. So we'll start about here, and I'll apply fractal noise, and I'll change this from basic to dynamic. We probably won't be seeing too much of the texture itself, but I find that dynamic just gives a little more contrast and makes this work better. Now I'm going to go up to the 2 second mark here, because this is where I want this to be at its absolute brightest. I'm going to select the pen tool and just draw out a square mask, which we can then reposition over the trapdoor. I'll change the blending mode to add. Now I'll hit V and I can use these mask points to just move this up around the trapdoor. Then I'm going to want to convert these points to make them smoother. So I'll go to the Convert Vertex tool here in the pen tool menu and just click on each of these points, and that rounds them off. Hit F, feather this at least 100 pixels, and at this point we want the image to be so bright that we can't see anything, so that at this moment we don't see the transition. So I'll do that by going over to the brightness setting of the fractal noise and turning that up. Now that's so bright now that that's obliterating just about everything. I might turn it down a little because seeing some of what's going on will be sufficient. I might just turn up the contrast as well. That adds a little more detail, and I'll probably feather that even more. A fast blur could help too, so I'll apply a fast blur and just turn that up. I think that looks good there. Maybe want to push the brightness up a little. We can test this, and the wonderful thing about working in After Effects with Cinema 4D is that you really can make changes at any point, and it's not really going to slow you down. So I'm going to keyframe the opacity of this here, then move back 1 frame, and then drag the opacity down to about 50. Move back another frame, drag it up to about 90, so it's nearly as bright as it will go. Then back another frame, drag it right down, much lower this time, and this is going to create a flickering effect. If you just play through, you can see how that flickers on now. Now down here I'm going to go back a few frames and lower the opacity of this down to about 20, and then right at the beginning of the clip here I'll take this down to 0, so that that smokiness gradually appears as though it's been built up by those sparks smoking in the air. And then at the moment where the grill is about to fall away, there's a flash of light. Of course we want to go very quickly after that flash to nothing, so I'll go just a couple of frames ahead and drag the opacity down to 0. We are going to add more smoke later on, so it doesn't matter that this disappears completely. Now you can see how that works now, just a large flash over those sparks. Now if you were shooting this in the real world, it's possible that the glow from those sparks would be even bigger. So you can, if you want, select the mask points and drag them out even further like this, create a really large flash of light. But if you do that, you're probably not going to want to make it quite as bright and contrasty through the whole area. That is an option. It's not the particular look that I would choose for this, but it does happen when you're shooting sparks with a camera. You often get this effect where it fills the whole frame and really flashes. You probably want to move that up so that it was more centralized over there. But I prefer the original look we had, where it's just this small area blurring over the sparks like that. Just gives us that transition moment. It's very important to remember as well there will be sound effects, And although that's not your job as an After Effects artist, it's worth remembering that they will help you at these moments of transition. In fact, I'm going to want to just pull on these handles here. I'm going to tighten this mask rather than expand it, move it a little closer to the grid, like that. And I think that's still going to cover up this moment sufficiently. Nobody's going to see that we're switching from one effect to the other. They'll just see the grill fall away. Now, as it falls away, I want that background up there to no longer have the light in it, but to become black. So at the same point here, the 2-second mark where everything gets very bright, I'm going to go down to our backlight layer, split that. I'm using a shortcut there, but you can just go to Edit and Split Layer. And then I'm going to delete it on the second half. At the same point, I want to switch off the keying in the Luma key filter on the trapdoor layer. So with the trapdoor layer selected, go to Luma key, keyframe the threshold here, move forward 1 frame, and then drag this threshold down to 0. So that gives us the glowing light and the sparks behind, and then as the explosion happens, we're looking up into that space. Now if we do that, then the glowing light that we had coming from that light source above probably needs to go too. So at the 2-second mark, I select the smoke light layer, hit T, keyframe its opacity, which is at 53, just go forward a few frames and drag that down to nothing. And there we have that feeling now of the light being taken away as the grill falls. It's as though something up there has exploded and whatever light source we had has vanished, which helps to sell the moment even more, I think. So we have this glowing look, and then everything's plunged more into darkness as that falls away. So this part of the shot is almost complete. We now just need to add some more sparks that fall during this part of the shot and make them look different from the rain, and then some more sparks that fall with the grill as it falls.